Hello all, welcome to oratrainings.com. In this session, we'll discuss about importing the AP invoice using OIC and the approach is FBDI. So you can see the flow here. So we'll invoke our OIC integration, which will read the zip file, which is according to the FBDI format, and then internally we'll call the Oracle Cloud ERP adapter for the purpose of loading this zip file into Fusion ERP. Okay. So then finally, we'll be able to achieve the AP invoice import via OIC in the FBDI logic, using FBDI logic. So let's see the content. We require FTP server where we'll be generating our FTP file, FBDI file. We require a Fusion ERP server in which we'll be uploading our FBDI AP invoice data. The components required for our integration is we require a REST trigger connection and the FTP, and then we require Oracle Cloud ERP adapter connection. We'll be designing our integration of type application, input parameters none, but output parameter we want to generate an ID called load request ID, which is the ID which is a response value from the Oracle ERP Cloud adapter. And the REST connection you can observe here. And when you click on create connection, select the REST adapter, mention the connection details, make sure that you select the role type as trigger, and then authentication, I think you can go with WAT 2.0, and then that's it, save, and your connection should be ready. Next thing, FTP connection. Make sure that you mention the appropriate host, port, and the security credentials. And this is how we can deal with FTP connection. Coming to the Fusion ERP connection, when you click on create connection, search for Oracle ERP Cloud, and then mention the connection details. And in the properties, you can observe here, in the ERP Cloud host, mention the URL of Fusion ERP instance. And the security policy can go with appropriate options based on your instance. So in our case, I'm going with a username and password token. I mentioned the username and password, and our configuration was 100% completed, right? So these are three connections which will be using our integration. And here, this is how our integration flow should look like. So the first one is the triggering activity, wherein we want to, this is a starting point of our integration. And then we'll be reading the FBDI file, right? So our assumption is that we have another process, or assuming that there should be another process which will generate the zip file of AP Invoice FBDI. And it also has the appropriate property file for the AP Invoice import. Okay. So totally you'll have three files. One is AP Invoice header file, AP Invoice lines file, as well as AP Invoice properties file, which is required for the import property. And now this invoke read FBDI file will read the zip file. And then this zip file will be pointed to the load and import of our Oracle FBDI import. And then finally, it will generate a status request ID that will map to our trigger input. Okay, so we'll see the content now. We'll try to design the integration now. So this is how it should be looking like. Once you click on integration, we should be able to see two requests getting done in the ERP, and you can observe the request ID 87960025. It's a load job, and after that, once the load job is successful, it will call the import payable invoice automatically based on the property files which we mentioned in our zip file, and the source of our FTP, source of our FBDI file is our FTP. So you can observe here 2025 inbound AP invoice is a place where I am providing the zip file and nothing but the AP invoice FBDI file. Okay, so now let me show you the zip file. What does exactly it has, right? So this is a zip file, right? It has three files. One is header interface, line interface, and other one is AP invoice properties. And what are the contents of it? So this is the content as like these files. The first two files are generated by the FBDI file, right? Show you this. This is the AP invoice interface, and other one is AP lines interface, and this is the property file which is used by the import job. Okay, if at all, if you don't provide the property file, what will happen is the import job will not get invoked. That's it. That's the only difference. If at all, if you want the load and import should happen, definitely make sure that you provide the proper property file. Okay, so now what we do is we'll just go back to our server. We'll try to design the integration. Click on create application. I'll just go with this name, underscore test. Let it be like this one. Now the first one is FTP connection, not FTP, REST connection. Invoke AP Invoice FBDI. Here we just need to add the relative endpoint, and also the response will just go with the response as load request ID. So as per our this one, this parameter we would like to add up in the response. I'll just enter that JSON format. Mention the sample value. Click on continue and finish. Now the next thing is we want to read the FTP file, right? So here we'll just click on FTP connection OT. Perform the invoke activity of the FTP file. Like we'll just say read AP Invoice FBDI. The operation is read a file and it's a binary. And the directory location, let us mention this one. This is our directory location. The file name. So make sure that you provide the proper file name. We are assuming we'll have only one file. So we'll just go with that assumption. And we don't want to provide any format as it's a binary one. We'll just go with no. Click on continue and finish. Okay. Next thing is invoking the ERP Cloud Adapter. Click on this button and search Fusion ERP connection. It will take some time. Load and import cloud or Fusion Cloud ERP, I can say. AP Invoice, Fusion ERP. Select the second option, import bulk data into Oracle Cloud ERP. And in this one, we need to select the job as import payables invoices. Let us see. Let us wait for that. Yeah, so here, import payables invoices. This is a job. Now, the next thing is just simply go with the default. Don't change anything and finish. Okay. Now, for the next one is, let us finish the mapping for the load. Click on edit, mapping for the load and import job. We have to map the file which we receive from FTP to the import bulk data job. So here, ICS file reference, properties file data. So in the read file, FBDI response, get the ICS file, get the file name as well as directory also. So we'll just go with ICS file reference, copy that, file name, and directory. Okay. And this one also, just check that, read FBDI mapping also one. We don't need to change it because while invoking this one itself, we clearly mentioned the file and everything. So we don't need to set it. Let us say during creation of this particular mapping, if at all, if you not provide a proper value, the best thing what you can do is you can just set the values here also. Then right click here, click on create target node, and what is the file name we are expected here? So this is the file name we are expected to provide. So I'll just mention that. This is how we can mention. And for the directory also, right click here, click on create target node, and mention this directory name here. And the final one, we want to set the load request ID based on the response which we receive from the load and import job of Fusion. So click on action mapping and click on create here. Now let us create a mapping between the response of FBDI job as well as the trigger response wrapper. So load request ID and load and import Fusion ERP response, expand this one, and you should be see a result. This one is simply mapped to load request ID. Click on validate, back, save, go back. Yeah, so I'll just click on this one. Okay, I think there's some property pending here. Primary business identifier, we have not set it, so we can't activate it. Let us activate that first. Yeah, let us activate this. And now here we can have our latest invoice generated. What we can do is, let us say, the important property for this one is, let us, I'll generate my invoice with the number XX AP 12. This is my invoice number, and remaining I'll just go with the default, which I already tested. I'll click on generate CSV file. This action will generate a zip file with two files inside it. Let us see that. So here I'll select the folder where I want to generate my file. So I'll select, this is my folder location. It just takes a couple of seconds to generate that. Okay, CSV and zip file have been created. Yeah, I can just close this one. And now this is zip which is generated just now 4:35 p.m. So I'll just copy the property file. By default, if you observe the zip file, you'll not see any property file here. You'll just have only invoice header interface, invoice line interface. I want to copy the property file also. I'll just move it to the zip file. So it will just create the the property file will get copied here. And now this latest zip file, I'll just copy to my FTP. So I'll just reload here and I'll just try to copy this one. You can see the latest one, which is 860 bytes, which is modified just now. Now, the next thing is, we'll just go back to our integration and click on run. Click on run, and here, as per our import file, what is the latest invoice number we mentioned? etc. AP12, right? Yeah, AP12. So now we can also, yeah, the load request ID, it is 288. You can just refresh this one, the Fusion ERP instance. Click on tools. Schedule processes. And you can see the latest job. Yeah, 288, which is load job completed, and now it is invoking the payable invoices. And from the backend, I'll try to validate here in the AP invoice interface table as well as AP invoice header table. This is a BIB report of Fusion ERP. We'll just try to validate here. And what was the invoice number? This was our invoice number. Can just see here. So I can see the invoice in the invoice header table as well as invoice interface table. In the first one which you are seeing, that's invoice interface table, and you can see the status here somewhere. Yeah, status is processed. Status is processed, right? Okay, so this is how we can import AP Invoice into Fusion ERP using Oracle Integration Cloud with the FBDI approach, right? And of course, like the assumption we have considered is like a generation of FBDI is done by some other system. Maybe in the next coming sessions, what we do is we'll try to create the source data files using the database, and we'll try to read the content from the DBCS and import into Fusion ERP. Okay, thank you.